Hey everybody, it's Thom with the Errata Online, and I wanted to do a quick status update showing off the current progress of the Sharp X68000 port of PLATOTerm, the terminal program used to access Plato online services such as Errata Online and cyber1.org. I'd like to take this moment real quick to say, honestly, this is the first program that I've written for the Sharp X68000 systems, and as such, I do not have actual hardware here. I've been doing this entirely inside emulation, but it has given me the opportunity to really get to understand the hardware really well, and overall, I'm very impressed with the system and its capabilities. And due to some rather unique decisions made by the platform here, it maps onto Plato quite well. The 512 by 512 display that's used is actually a 1-to-1 pixel representation of the Plato display. So there is no scaling actually involved, as you'll see here in just a moment. A little bit about the system configuration that I'm using here. I have here a rather simple, basic middle-of-the-road X68000 expert configuration running at 10 megahertz with 2 megabytes of system memory here, although this should run just fine on 1 megabyte of system memory as well. I'm only using a 16-color display here, so the impact should be quite minimal on all counts. Of note here as well, if we actually take and go into port, we will actually see that I have right here a serial port set up here, COM8, that is connected out to a Wi-Fi modem. Now, if you don't know what a Wi-Fi modem is, do a little bit of Googling and you'll find it's basically a little piece of hardware that sits on an RS-232 port. You can plug it up to your X68000 serial port, and it provides a Wi-Fi module with an antenna or an Ethernet port on the other end. And it allows this device to act like a Hayes-compatible modem. The X68000 thinks it's a modem for all intents and purposes, and you can use it to dial out to internet hosts. These devices are relatively inexpensive, costing anywhere between $25 to $50, and quite plentiful, and many of them will actually work. So I have one here connected up here to a COM port and basically ready to go. So we'll go ahead and launch the terminal real quick. Let's see. Sorry about that, fellas. Needed to check something real quick. So, one thing to note real quick, TMSIO is actually supported. And if you run TMSIO, you will get much improved serial output here. I'm going to go ahead and set up with a 16K buffer. Trust me, it's going to need it because it has a significant amount of processing involved. We'll go ahead and start, and we'll see the splash screen here for PLATOTerm. Currently, PLATOTerm is a graphical terminal. Virtually everything that happens, including the plotting of text, happens on the graphical plane, and this happens because even text needs to be positioned at arbitrary pixel positions on the screen, not at character row and column grids. So, assuming your modem is configured up correctly, you can take and dial into your Plato service, such as Errata Online, by issuing a dialing command, just like you would with a typical modem. And we'll see right here, we see the connection string, and within a few moments, we'll be greeted by the login screen for Errata Online. Right here, I've got this running at 19200 baud, so the performance is actually quite nice. We'll go ahead and enter in username and password, along with the group. And we're presented here with the main menu, and you can tell right off the bat here that we've gone a bit beyond VT100 and ANSI emulation. This is completely a graphical experience. So we'll go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and latch onto the mouse for just a moment. And you'll see here, yes, the mouse is actually supported. So you can use the mouse in addition to the keyboard to make selections. When the mouse is not needed, the mouse will disappear from screen. and you can use the appropriate navigation keys to move around. Now, I haven't implemented a soft keyboard screen yet for some of the special keys that Plato actually needs, but the key mappings, but I will be implementing that shortly. With that said, the individual keys and key mappings for the system are extremely mnemonic, meaning that the back key is Control B, data is Control D, stop is Control S, etc. And there are shift key variations as well. So with that, we'll just take and kind of bounce around a little bit here. Go into games, and let's have a look, for example, at a game of Avatar. Avatar is a massive role-playing game. Probably one of the granddaddies of all of the dungeon crawlers that we all know and love. Go ahead and run one of my characters here. We're currently in the city, so I'll go ahead and take down so you can see. And as you can see right here, it's doing extremely well. And it is worth noting that even at 1200 bits per second, it runs extremely well. It was all designed to run at 1200 bits per second, so even if you need to throttle this down, it will still work quite nicely. But on the X68000 here with the TMSIO driver, it seems to run quite comfortably at 19200 bits per second, just fine. At any time, I can take and stop by hitting Shift Stop, so Shift Control S. And we get an opportunity to either continue or to log off at that point. We'll go ahead and press Control D for data. And some of the other games and things that are available here. We'll look at Airfight real quick. Airfight is a multiplayer, just like Avatar. Airfight is a multiplayer game as well. This is a flight simulator. We'll go ahead and put some fuel in the plane, put some missiles on the plane. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the instrumentation real quick. Turn up the flaps, crank back a little bit, set the throttle, and we can start going at this point. Now, the screen clear is not as fast as I want it to be just yet. I want to see if I can make it a bit faster. But, you know, as we can see, it's a first-person flight experience. In addition to the displays here, we can go ahead and take a look at a map where we are on screen. Pardon my phone. And we can see right where we are in relation to the two runways, and if there are anybody else on the screen, people that we can take and dogfight with. But since there's not, we'll go ahead and just exit. For a really good demonstration of just how nice and crisp the overall graphics actually are, we'll actually go to the second page here and go to Mahjong. This is, to my knowledge, the first computer implementation of a Mahjong game. It was written by Brody Lockhart, who would later go on to do Shanghai for Activision using much the same code. We'll go ahead and use the original character set since we have the resolution for it. And we can use the mouse to take and select items. We'll go ahead and just look at the turtle. As we can see right here, a nice little Mahjong game. Beautiful, isn't it? So, okay, with that, we'll go ahead and just step out real quick. And yes, there's a glitch here. If we go back, we can redraw the menu. So, I mean, it kind of gives you a good kind of a good breadth of the possibilities of the system. Some of the games are multiplayer, some of them aren't, and because the system has a built-in development environment, still more of them can be made. Now, let's see here. We'll actually leave games for a second so you can see, in addition to games, we also have what's called the notes section, which is a threaded discussion forum system. Go ahead and select the public notes files, and you can see here it's very familiar to anybody who's used a threaded forum discussion system. In fact, this was one of the very first, with notes coming online in the summer of 1973. And if the name Notes sounds familiar to you, that's because the father of Lotus Notes, so to speak, was a systems programmer at Plato. So we go ahead and look at a note, and we can see viewing quite nicely. Go ahead and bounce out real quick. So, I mean, even at this point here, you can see that the terminal itself is actually is in very good shape, and a lot of it currently supports all of the Plato controls here with full color, scaled down appropriately to the X68000 16-bit palette, and you know, overall, what's left to be done now at this particular point in time, more or less, is the user interface features, adding the nice things that will make using this terminal a bit of a joy to use. Of course, not including but not limited to exiting the program. And of course, the software keyboard here works as expected as well. So, you know, for anybody who wants to use this, you can get this on GitHub, project Chuck909, PLATOTerm X68000 to grab the code. There's also releases are also posted there, and I will soon be producing official releases at errata.online, so you can download the terminal there for your machine as well. You can also see me on the Facebook group in the Sharp X68000 Club. So you can also talk to me there, ask questions, try to get answers if I'm not being clear on certain things. But the point being is that now Sharp X68000 users can effectively join in the fun of using Errata Online on their machines, and in what is quite possibly the best possible view from a vintage computer. So you have that particular distinction as well. Still a lot of work to do, and you'll be seeing more status updates in the coming days here. Yeah, more to come. Thank you guys so much for watching.